In the late 1970s, the American midsize market would be expanding, and not just in sales. Bumper regulations added length, width, and weight to cars that had been getting bigger with every restyle, reaching their biggest proportions before the end-of-decade downsizing. The new midsize Plymouth Fury of 1975 was essentially just a restyled satellite, helping prices remain low at $3,500 to $4,800. For just under $115,000 in sales for the year. Coupes were 214 inches long on a 115-inch wheelbase, while others used a 118-inch wheelbase and were 218 to 226 inches long, with weight ranging from 3,600 to 4,300 pounds. The base engine was a 3.7-liter 225/6 with optional V8s of 5.2-liter 318, 5.9-liter 360, and 6.6-liter 400 cubic inch sizes. Horsepower ranged from 95 up to 235 for the last Roadrunner, which was a mid-16-second car with a top speed over 120. By 1977, all of Chevrolet's Chevelles were Malibus, and it was the last year before they were downsized. Prices were reasonable at $3,900 to $5,200, with sales just under $330,000, not including the even better-selling Monte Carlo. Coupes were 206 inches long on a 112-inch wheelbase, and the sedan and wagon were 208 or 215 inches long on a 116-inch wheelbase, and weight was 3,600 to 4,300 pounds. Engines included a 4.1-liter 250 straight-six and 5-liter 305 or 5.7-liter 350 V8. With 110 to 170 horsepower. A 350 four-barrel coupe was a mid-18-second car capable of speeds near 120. The Dodge Coronet became the Monaco with the move to stacked rectangular headlights in 1977. Relatively affordable, priced at $3,900 to $5,400 for sales over $80,000. They were 214 to 226 inches long on a 115 or 118-inch wheelbase, and weighed 3,600 to 4,400 pounds. Power came from a 3.7-liter 225/6, 5.2-liter 318, 5.9-liter 360, or 6.6-liter 400 cubic inch V8, with 110 to 190 horsepower, with the big block doing a mid-18-second quarter mile and nearly 120 miles an hour. Pontiac's Le Mans of 1977 was on a 112 or 116-inch wheelbase, and 209 to 213 inches long. Weight was 3,600 to 4,200 pounds, and prices were $4,100 to $5,300. V8s came in 5-liter 301, 5.7-liter 350, and 6.6-liter 400, with 135 to 200 horsepower. And the 105 horsepower Buick 3.8-liter 231 V6 was also available. Sales were around 80,000, and a Can-Am TA was a mid-16-second car with a top speed over 120. Coupe versions of Buick Century of 1977 had very different styling from the sedans and wagons, looking more like a Regal. It was 210 inches long on a 112-inch wheelbase, while others used the 116-inch wheelbase and were 214 to 218 inches long. Weight was 3,600 to 4,300 pounds. Prices were $4,200 to $5,300, and sales were over $135,000. Horsepower was 105 to 185, and the base engine was the 3.8-liter 231 V6, but most had the 5.7-liter 350, although the wagon could be had with a 6.6-liter 403, making for a low 18-second quarter mile and speeds over 115 miles an hour. Oldsmobile's Cutlass was the best seller of 1977, achieved by spreading the Cutlass name across more models, helping it reach more than $630,000 for the year. Prices were $4,400 to $5,400 for cars that were 210 or 215 inches long on a 112 to 116-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,600 to 4,300 pounds. Engines came in 3.8-liter 231 V6, or 4.3-liter 260, 5.7-liter 350, and 6.6-liter 403 V8, with 105 to 185 horsepower. A 403 442 did a mid-17-second quarter mile and could exceed 120 miles an hour. Ford restyled the Gran Torino in 1977 renaming it the LTD2. Priced from $4,500 to $5,400, two doors were 216 inches long on a 114-inch wheelbase, and others were 220 to 226 inches long on a 118-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,800 to 4,400 pounds. Sales were 235,000, and engines were the 5-liter 302, 5.8-liter 351, and 6.6-liter 400, with 130 to 173 horsepower, for a mid-18-second quarter mile and speeds near 115 miles an hour. All of the mid-size Mercuries were Cougars for 1977, using the same 114 to 118-inch wheelbase, and being 215 to 223 inches long, and 3,800 to 4,500 pounds. Prices were $4,700 to $5,300, and engines were the same as the Ford, as was the Performance, while sales were just under $195,000 for the year. The AMC Matador ran until 1978, with sales for the year being down to $11,000 from just over $30,000 the year before. Costing $4,800 to $5,300, they were 210 to 219 inches long on a 114 or 118-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,700 to 4,100 pounds. Engines were a 4.2-liter 258 straight 6 or a 5-liter 304 or 5.9-liter 360 V8, with horsepower ranging from 120 to 140. A 360 sedan took 19 seconds to do the quarter mile, and top speed was around 105. In Britain, the Roots Arrow survived until 1979 as the Chrysler Hunter, essentially a Hillman Hunter, taking on the look of the Humber Scepter. Base price was over 1,500 pounds. It was 171 inches long on a 99-inch wheelbase and weighed about 2,100 pounds. Power came from a 1.7-liter inline 4 with 61 to 74 horsepower, making for a top speed of about 95 and a quarter mile in the high 18s. The Morris Marina got a minor facelift in 1975, 167 to 170 inches long on a 96-inch wheelbase and 1,900 to 2,200 pounds. Starting around $2,900, engines at the time were a 1.3-liter or 1.8-liter with 57 to 85 horsepower. A GT Coupe was a low 18-second car with a top speed above 100 miles an hour. Austin's Allegro was 152 to 157 inches long on a 96-inch wheelbase, weighing 1,900 pounds, and priced from 1,200 to 2,000 pounds. Offered in 1.1, 1.3, 1.5, and 1.7-liter engine sizes, with 46 to 90 horsepower. It could reach close to 105 miles an hour and do a mid-17-second quarter mile. Triumph made the Dolomite until 1980, having sold some 200,000 since its introduction, 162 inches long on a 96-inch wheelbase, and weighing 2,300 pounds. The four-cylinder engines came in 1,300, 1,500, 1,900, and 2,000 cc's, with 51 to 127 horsepower. The Sprint had a claimed top speed of 115 miles an hour, but prices could exceed 9,500 pounds. In France, the Renault 12 lasted through the end of the decade. It was 171 to 174 inches long on a 96-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,000 to 2,100 pounds. Powered by a 1.3-liter 4 with 54 to 59 horsepower, having a top speed just over 85 miles an hour and taking 20.5 seconds to do the quarter mile. The basic Centron GS ran until 1980, being 162 inches long on a 100-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,000 to 2,100 pounds. Its 1.1 or 1.2-liter Boxer 4 produced 55 to 63 horsepower. The X3 version did the quarter mile in the high 19s with a top speed over 95. Peugeot's 304 was also made until 1980, 158 to 160 inches long on a 102-inch wheelbase, and 2,000 to 2,100 pounds. Offered with a 1.3-liter petrol or 1.4-liter diesel with 64 or 44 horsepower. The gas version could exceed 90 miles an hour and do the quarter mile in the mid-19-second range. From Germany, Volkswagen's Passat was called the Dasher when it came to the U.S. in 1974, where prices range from $5,300 to $7,700. 165 inches long on a 97-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,000 pounds. Initially with a 1.3 or 1.5 liter inline 4, and then a 1.6 liter when it came to the U.S. Horsepower was 59 to 84 for a claimed top speed of 92 miles an hour. The Ford Taunus, or Mark IV Cortina, arrived in 1976 and was priced from around $7,800. 171 to 176 inches long on a 102-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,200 to 2,600 pounds. Engines included a 1.3, 1.6, or 2-liter 4, or a 2.3-liter V6, with 54 to 107 horsepower. The V6 made for a mid-17-second quarter mile and speeds over 105 miles an hour. The Opel Record E was introduced in 1977. It was 181 inches long on a 105-inch wheelbase and weighed just over 2,400 pounds. Power came from a 1.7, 1.9, or 2-liter 4, or a 2.1-liter diesel, and horsepower was 59 to 109. The 2-liter could do more than 105 miles an hour and took just over 17.5 seconds to do the quarter mile. Audi's second-generation 100 of 1976 came to the U.S. as the 5000 in 1978, with a price of $11,000. 184 inches long on a 105-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,400 to 2,800 pounds. Engines were a 1.6-liter or 2-liter 4, or a 2.1-liter inline 5, with 84 to 113 horsepower. A European spec Sporty S could do a mid-17-second quarter mile and exceed 110 miles an hour. The Mercedes-Benz W123 was introduced in 1975. The saloon was 186 to 191 inches long on a 110-inch wheelbase and weighed around 3,600 pounds. It came in several gas and diesel versions, from a 54 horsepower 2-liter diesel to a 2.7-liter fuel-injected inline 6 with 174 horsepower. Prices ranged from $4,300 to $12,000, and a 280E could do 125 miles an hour and a mid-16-second quarter mile. BMW's new 5 Series was 182 to 190 inches long on a 104-inch wheelbase and 2,700 to 3,500 pounds, offered in 1.8-liter, 2-liter, 2.5-liter, 2.8-liter, and 3-liter versions, with 89 to 176 horsepower. Prices started over $9,000 in the U.S., and a 530i with a manual could do a mid-16-second quarter mile and more than 120 miles an hour. In Italy, Fiat's 131 Mirafiori was 167 to 168 inches long on a 98-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,100 to 2,500 pounds, initially with a 1,300, 1,600, or 1,800. Horsepower was 64 to 86 for a mid-19-second quarter mile and more than 100 miles an hour. The Lancia Beta Berlina was 169 to 170 inches long on a 100-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,200 to 2,600 pounds, costing $3,500 when it came to the U.S. in 1975. Available in 1.3, 1.6, 1.8, or 2 liters, with 81 to 117 horsepower, for a high 16-second quarter mile and speeds over 110 miles an hour. Alfa Romeo introduced the Alfetta 2000 in 1977, although you could still get the 1.6 and 1.8-liter versions. They were 167 to 173 inches long on a 99-inch wheelbase and 2,300 to 2,500 pounds. Horsepower ranged from 107 to 138, making for a low 17-second quarter mile and speeds near 115 miles an hour. The Swedish Volvo 200 series was introduced in 1974, with prices around $5,300. They were 190 to 191 inches long on a 104-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,800 to 3,100 pounds. The 240 used a 2-liter inline 4 with 89 horsepower, and the 260 a 2.7-liter V6 with 123 to 138 horsepower, for a claimed top speed of 115 miles an hour. The Saab 99 of 1977 cost about $6,700, but gained an optional turbo, 174 to 178 inches long on a 97-inch wheelbase, with weight around 2,600 to 2,700 pounds. Power came from a 2-liter inline-4 with 95 to 143 horsepower, allowing the turbo to do 115 miles an hour and a low 16-second quarter mile. In the Soviet Union, one could get a Vaz Ziguli, also known as the Lada 1500 and 1600. They were 162 inches long on a 95-inch wheelbase and 2,300 pounds, a couple of hundred pounds more than the Fiat they were based on, with the inline 4s producing 75 to 80 horsepower. Australia offered less big versions of their big cars, such as the final series of Chrysler Valiant that arrived in 1978. It was 198 inches long on a 111-inch wheelbase and 3,400 to 3,500 pounds, offered with a 4-liter 245 or 4.3-liter 265 Hemi 6 or a 5.2-liter 318 V8. Horsepower ranged from 143 to 162, with the Big 6 capable of a 17-second quarter mile and speeds over 110 miles an hour. Holden's Kingswood finished the decade at 191 to 193 inches long on a 111-inch wheelbase, with weight around 3,000 to 3,400 pounds. Power came from a 3.3-liter 201 straight 6 or a 4.1-liter 253 or 5-liter 308 V8 with 89 to 216 horsepower, allowing for a low 16-second quarter mile and speeds over 115 miles an hour. The third-generation Ford Falcon saw its last update in 1976. It was 192 inches long on a 111-inch wheelbase, except the wagon, which was 200 inches long on a 116-inch wheelbase. Weight was 3,300 to 3,900 pounds. Engines were a 3.3-liter 200 cubic inch or 4.1-liter 250 cubic inch straight 6, or a 4.9-liter 302 or 5.8-liter 351 V8, providing 107 to 217 horsepower. A GT was a low 16-second car with a top speed of 125 miles an hour. In Japan, Honda introduced the Accord in 1977. It was 163 to 172 inches long on a 94-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,000 to 2,200 pounds. Available with a 1.6 or 1.8-liter with 68 to 79 horsepower for a mid-18-second quarter mile and a top speed near 100 miles an hour. Mazda's 616 was 168 inches long on a 97-inch wheelbase and 2,200 pounds, priced around $3,900. It used a 1.6-liter inline-4 with 74 horsepower, taking 20.5 seconds to do the quarter mile, and it could nearly reach 95 miles an hour. The Subaru Leon was only 157 inches long on a 97-inch wheelbase and 1,700 pounds. Prices range from $1,900 to $3,900, with available four-wheel drive. Offered with a 1,200, 1,400, or 1,600 Boxer 4 with 58 to 94 horsepower, depending on the market, for a possible quarter mile under 18 seconds and a top speed near 105 miles an hour. The fifth-generation Toyota Corona was made through the end of the decade. It was 167 to 176 inches long on a 98-inch wheelbase and weighed 2,400 to 2,800 pounds, with a deluxe sedan costing $4,000 to $4,900. Available engines included the 1.6, 1.8, 2-liter, and 2.2-liter, with 75 to 96 horsepower. Datsun's Violet was simply the 710 in the U.S. and some other locations. It was 162 inches long on a 97-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,200 pounds. Priced just under $4,100, it used a 2-liter inline-4 with 97 horsepower, which moved it to an 18-second quarter mile and a top speed over 105. While the Isuzu Florian got a facelift for 1978, offered with either a 1.8-liter gas or 2-liter diesel with 109 or 62 horsepower. It was 174 inches long on a 98-inch wheelbase and 2,300 pounds, with a quarter mile in the high 17s and a top speed over 100 miles an hour. The third-generation Mitsubishi Galant was 169 to 177 inches long on a 99-inch wheelbase, with weight ranging from 2,100 to 2,800 pounds. Offered with a 1.6, 1.9, and 2-liter, providing 91 to 113 horsepower. It could get close to 110 miles an hour and do a mid-17-second quarter mile. The fourth generation Nissan Skyline was made through 1977, either 167 or 176 inches long on a 99 or 103-inch wheelbase, weighing 2,200 to 2,700 pounds. Power came from 1.6, 1.8, and 2-liter engines with 99 to 128 horsepower. A 2000 GTE did a high 17-second quarter mile with a top speed near 110. With little more than 2 decades behind it, the segment had changed quite a lot, but bigger changes would be coming soon. So as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below and like and subscribe.